Lance Stroll's reaction after getting knocked out in Q2 at Barcelona was intense. Reports say he lost his temper completely, damaged some equipment, swore at the crew, and even pushed one of the team members. Later that day, Aston Martin announced, Lance had wrist surgery and might miss the upcoming Canadian race. But many are questioning the timing of this announcement. Was it a genuine injury or a way to cover for a suspension? Felipe Drugovich has already been called up to fill in, and if he does well, the team might just keep him for good. With new driver Adrian Newey and Honda set to join for 2026, the pressure on Aston Martin is increasing, and Lawrence Stroll might have to face the reality everyone else is seeing, that Lance has become a problem for the team. The timeline of events is odd. The frustration of Stroll's exit from Q2 is understandable, but what followed was chaotic. People in the Aston Martin garage described scenes that went beyond anger. Lance reportedly slammed gear and shouted at engineers, then pushed a team member physically. It wasn't just a moment of frustration, it was a breakdown, and it threw the whole team off balance. Hours later, the official statement came out. Lance had a wrist injury that needed minor surgery, which could make him miss Canada. But strangely, there was no evidence of the injury on the track or any earlier mention of it before the outburst. In a sport where every detail is picked apart, this silence stood out. The paddock is buzzing. Is the injury real or just a convenient excuse? A suspension for disciplinary reasons would be embarrassing, especially since Lance is the team owner's son. A minor surgery sounds like a safer explanation for everyone. But even if the injury is true, it doesn't cover up the bigger problem. Lance has a history of losing his cool. Back in 2023, after a disappointing qualifying, he shoved his trainer and walked away from an interview early. He was fined and criticized, but nothing really changed. The same pattern is repeating, only louder this time. The situation at Aston Martin is very different now compared to a couple of years ago. They're no longer just a midfield team trying to get points. Signing Adrian Newey and securing a factory partnership with Honda shows their aim is much bigger. They want to fight for championships starting in 2026. And when you set goals that high, every weak spot gets noticed quickly, especially under the strict budget rules F1 has today. Lance Stroll is becoming more of a liability, not only because of his behavior, but also his performance. He is currently Aston Martin's only driver scoring points this season, but only by a small margin. Fernando Alonso's bad luck hasn't hidden his speed and consistency. Inside the team, it's clear which car is tougher to get right and who stays calm when the pressure rises. Unfortunately, that isn't Lance. Meanwhile, Felipe Drugovich is waiting in the wings. The 2022 Formula 2 champion has been with the team as a reserve driver, gathering experience on the simulator and attending every race weekend. He's far from a newcomer and is ready to step up now that Lance might be sidelined. What's more, Drugovich has shown he's willing to put everything on the line for this chance. He was supposed to compete in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but has made it clear that Formula 1 is his priority. This kind of commitment sends a strong message to the team management. They want drivers who are focused, mature, and can contribute to building a strong and united team. If Drugovich performs well, whether by qualifying better than Alonso or scoring points in his debut race, the entire conversation about who should be driving changes quickly. Because it's not just about raw speed, it's about staying composed and dependable when it counts. Now there's the question of Lawrence Stroll, team owner, father of Lance, and the man calling the shots. With the arrival of Adrian Newey and Honda, Aston Martin isn't just trying to be competitive. They're building a serious contender for the championship. Every part of the team needs to pull together perfectly. That means every driver choice matters, and every weak link gets noticed quickly, especially when the budget cap limits how much the team can spend to fix problems. Formula 1 is no longer just about raw talent. It's about how well a driver fits into the team, how they communicate with engineers, and how they handle pressure. So far, Lance hasn't consistently shown these qualities. In fact, his unpredictable behavior might be holding the team back. Alonso's contract runs until the end of 2026, but he's already 43 years old. He's still quick, but it's clear that Aston Martin needs a plan for the future. Bringing in a young driver like Drugovich or looking at other options such as Alex Albon or Oscar Piastri, if McLaren lets him go, is becoming more attractive with every incident involving Lance. Fans are also changing their minds. Social media has been less forgiving recently. Clips of Lance's outburst in Barcelona went viral quickly, and memes began to spread. Beyond the jokes, there's a serious question. What does Lance bring to the team besides his family name and his father's investment? The shadow of controversy follows him. Back in 2016, George Russell suggested Lance's Formula 3 title might have been influenced by team orders and unusual test mileage. While it's not proven, the suspicion has never fully disappeared. Reputation matters a lot in Formula 1, especially now that the sport is expanding, with companies like Audi joining and growing fan interest driven by shows like Drive to Survive. Aston Martin needs a strong professional image. Lance's recent behavior doesn't match that image. If reports of him pushing a team member are true, the consequences should be serious. Most teams would treat such actions as a major violation. Physical contact between colleagues is unacceptable in any workplace, especially one watched by millions around the world. So why hasn't Lance Stroll's behavior been treated with the seriousness it deserves? Simple. His surname is tied to the ownership of the team. That connection creates a difficult situation. But the question that's starting to surface is, how much longer can that protect him? The upcoming races are going to be crucial. If Felipe Drugovich performs well in Canada, the pressure on Lawrence Stroll to keep his son in the car will only increase. When someone like Adrian Newey joins, expectations shift. Newey is known for demanding excellence, not favoritism, and Honda, too, will expect results when their partnership begins. This kind of pressure leaves no room for decisions based on emotion or family ties. Only results matter. If Lance comes back and fails to deliver in Canada, assuming he's even fit to race, things could escalate quickly. Whispers from the paddock will grow louder. Confidence inside the garage could begin to fade. Media coverage will increase, and the spotlight will get hotter. A team aiming for championships can't afford distractions, and right now, Lance is becoming one. Even within the team, there are signs of unrest. Journalists are starting to receive quiet messages from anonymous sources, people inside Aston Martin frustrated with the lack of direction. That's not a good sign. When engineers begin leaking information, it usually points to deeper issues. The team looks like it's split. One side trying to push forward into a new, ambitious era, and another stuck in a situation shaped by personal loyalty. That imbalance is dangerous. Formula 1 moves fast, and teams that hesitate get left behind. Aston Martin is right on the edge of a big leap forward. They have a new engine partnership, a new factory, and possibly the greatest car designer of all time. This is a rare chance to become a front-running team. But there's also the risk that one person might stand in the way of all that progress. And that person might just be the one whose name is on the car. The truth is harsh, but it's becoming harder to ignore. Lance Stroll may be the son of the man funding Aston Martin, but that doesn't mean he deserves to stay in the car if he's not performing, especially when the team is trying to break into the top tier of Formula 1. Sentiment and loyalty don't win championships. Precision, consistency, and teamwork do. And that's where the problem lies. Lance's behavior is starting to clash with the image Aston Martin wants to build. If Drugovich steps in and impresses in Canada, even more so if he beats Alonso or brings home points, it changes the entire narrative. Suddenly, the team has a solid option who doesn't bring controversy with him. Drugovich is calm, mature, and focused. Everything the team says it wants in this new chapter. He's been patient, put in the hours on the simulator, and skipped major racing events like Le Mans just to be available. That kind of dedication doesn't go unnoticed by those who care about building a serious title contender, and with all eyes on Aston Martin's future, these decisions matter more than ever. F1 is more competitive now, and you can't afford to carry someone just because of their background. With Newey bringing his unmatched design brilliance and Honda bringing power unit expertise, the final piece is stability, and that includes the drivers. The idea of keeping Lance in the car just because of who he is doesn't sit well anymore. Not with sponsors, not with fans, and perhaps not even with key people inside the team. The next few races might be a turning point, not just for Lance, but for Aston Martin as a whole. If the team wants to prove they're serious about fighting Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari, they'll need to prove it with tough decisions. It's no longer just about who pays the bills. It's about who can bring results under pressure, and if Lance can't, someone else will. What happens next could define Aston Martin's future. If Drugovich takes this chance and turns it into a breakthrough, the team may finally have the reason they need to make a difficult but necessary call. This isn't about pushing Lance aside out of spite. It's about raising the standards. If someone else can deliver better under pressure, stay composed when things fall apart, and give more useful feedback to the engineers, then that's who should be in the seat. That's how a winning team operates. Lawrence Stroll might face one of the hardest decisions of his career, not as a businessman, but as a father. He built this team up with his own resources. He gave his son every possible advantage, a top car, the best facilities, and world-class teammates. But if Lance can't prove his worth on track, no amount of investment will change the outcome. Sooner or later, performance speaks louder than money. Even fans who were once divided are beginning to agree. You can feel the shift. Comments online, discussions in the paddock, and whispers among the team all point in the same direction. Lance Stroll is running out of space. Not just because of one bad weekend in Barcelona, but because the pattern has continued too long. At some point, the story stops being about potential and becomes a question of accountability. And for Aston Martin, the stakes couldn't be higher. This is their moment. New talent, new tech, and a real shot at building something historic. But if they want to rise, they have to do what every top team does: put emotion aside and let results guide their decisions. So here's the question left hanging in the air. If Drugovich delivers, if he proves that he belongs in Formula One, does Aston Martin finally make the call? Or will family ties keep them looking backward? Only time, and the next few races will tell.